Hey guys, it's John, and welcome back to Christian Guy Reacts. And today we are going to be reacting to Tate McRae. I've heard a little bit of some sound bites from her music before in the past, but I'm excited to be able to have the opportunity to react to one of her songs here today called Greedy, I believe it's called. This song released a little while ago, but I'm excited to be able to check it out and then also be able to compare it here and look at what are some themes that we see that she's trying to convey through her music here today as well. And this video is sponsored and podcast listening here too of this video is sponsored today by On and On Worship's new album Emerge. Has 12 great songs on there, and On and On Worship is a part of our Christian Guy Reacts network, so be sure to check them out and be able to listen to some of their great Christ-centered music. Has some EDM feels to it. You're going to hear some worship on there too as well. All of it's Christ-centered, all leaning towards Jesus. So be sure to check that out here after this episode. With that being said, let's get into listening to Tate McRae's song, Greedy.
He said, are you serious? I try, but I can't figure out. I've been next to you all night and still don't know what you're about. You keep talking, but not much coming out your mouth. Can't you tell that I want you? I say, yeah.
So it's interesting to me here. So far, I'm noticing a pattern here, and it's scooting in pretty fast here with the song and its pacing too. Is Tate McRae's seems to be like a relationship dynamic here, as we see with a lot of like pop songs. So a lot of very much me centered here, and it's like she's trying to get her significant other, in some sense, maybe it's a boyfriend or girlfriend, trying to get them to respond back to her here. And from what I'm saying, it says, she said, I would want myself, baby, please believe me. So talking about like, I love myself. I want you to also value me as well, from what I can see so far. As we see as far as the scripture, it's never great for us to be self-centered, as that leads us to being prideful and leads us to just burn out and collapse. It's never a great thing. So definitely encourage not to go the sense of being selfish, but being selfless instead, and wanting to help out others. So as Christ did for us when he died on the cross, being selfless and dying for the sins of every single person on the world, which is a pretty big deal. Let's continue to see how this theme develops here in the song. So now it looks like she's telling her significant other, telling him, I'm going to assume, not to get greedy, and that she's put him through hell, put him through some bad circumstances, but she's like, I still want the attention. I still want you to be there with me and be present with me.
I see you eyeing me down, but you'll never know much past my name.
So now it looks like we're in more of a dynamic where it's more like a situationship, where it's like a feeling out process. Now that we're seeing that he is probably looking at her, but doesn't know very much past what her name is. Doesn't really care. It's not showing the intentionality in the relationship, which is not going to set up for a healthy relationship at all. And that's something I would encourage you all to think about if you're listening to the song. What type of relationship, especially a romantic relationship, do you want? Do you want one that's sturdy and that's Christ-centered, or do you want one that's very toxic, very much you're cutting each other down consistently? You may have good physical vibes, so to speak, but you're not having any healthy fruit in the relationship at all. So let's continue to listen here.
How I'm running this room around and that I'm still half your age.
So I'm going to comment here on the last part. It says that I'm still half your age, which hopefully that means that both people in the relationship are above legal age. That's going to be my disclaimer here. And And my concern here too as well is that hopefully not, but if you have a 16-year-old girl or even a 16-year-old guy or if someone who's in their teenage years who's listening to this song of Tate McRae, someone's saying, "Oh, it's okay if somebody is significantly older than me," which may not set up for a healthy relationship or an appropriate relationship. So please keep an eye out for that. That's something that came to my mind here as those lyrics popped up. If you're above legal age, different story, but if you're under legal age, that is very concerning. And that's also maybe not a healthy, that's definitely not a healthy expectation to be communicating to younger listeners, which in my opinion, I would not recommend younger listeners listening to this just based off of what I've seen here so far. Let's continue to listen.
Looking at me like I'm some sweet escape. Obvious that you want me, but I said I would want myself. Baby, please believe me. I'll put you through hell. Just know me, yeah. So sure of yourself. Baby, don't get greedy.
And something that I'm seeing right now is it has a very catchy beat, but she's hiding very concerning lyrics under the blanket of be so infatuated with this beat and with this tempo. Don't worry about the lyrics. And that's a bigger problem that we see with um, just larger media outside of, especially outside of Christian media, is that they're hiding concerning messages inside their songs. And if you're a parent who's listening to this, if you're a brother or sister of someone who is under the age of 18, please, please, please be watchful for this. We know that the enemy, being Satan, uses music in many different ways and other influences too as well, not just music, but to hide concerning messages that lead us towards a life of sin and life of pain versus a life of full life that we hear about in John 10:10, that Jesus comes to give us life and life to the full, and to listen to things that because our ears are being receptive here, and whatever we're listening to, whatever we're watching here is going to have a say. Where it's like, oh, no, John, that's not going to have an impact on my life at all. Well, it will in some impact here. If you're spending time, especially if it's hours upon hours listening to this, that don't be surprised when you start seeing some of these things or psychological decisions pop into your brain because you are spending and you're like dumping it all into your brain when you're listening to this stuff over and over and over and over again. Let's continue to listen.
I still want it well. He said, I'm just curious. Is this for real or just an I can't tell if you love or hate me. Never met someone like.
And that right there is a problem. If you can't tell if someone loves you or hates you with the relationship, that right there should be an indication. Shouldn't even start the relationship. Just shouldn't. It's just not a good choice. Not a good choice whatsoever. And I would not recommend diving deep into a relationship with somebody if they're giving you mixed signals like that. You could definitely ask them, ask for clarification on it. But if you're already going in, it's like when you're going into to the ocean and you're wanting to go swim and swim and swim. And I'm especially going to use like the Gulf of America example here. It's like if you're swimming in the Gulf of America and then all of a sudden there's a nasty pile of seaweed that comes in there and it's hard for you to see, you're not sure what you're stepping on, and that could be a little bit concerning. Same thing with relationships is that if it's already muddy to begin with and you're walking around hoping for the best, don't be surprised when you step on something that's going to be hurtful, or don't be surprised when you step on something and it causes a lot of emotional trauma or mental health trauma. So please, please, please be careful, and know more about that person before you just jump in straight into a relationship with them.
That got me so crazy. Did you know you got that effect? I said, let me check. Yeah, I would want myself. Baby, please believe me. I'll put you through hell. Just know me, yeah. So sure of yourself. Baby, don't get greedy. That shit want as well.
The one thing I will say that we see a little bit is like, don't be greedy. I agree. You don't want to be greedy in the sense of money. You don't want to be in the greedy in the sense of time. So I definitely say we see too as well as far as of greed, the love of money, mammon in the Bible. That is a very, very problematic thing, and it could lead you to make lots of poor decisions, to become full of pride. As you know, as the famous expression is, pride comes before the fall. Those are some things to keep in mind. You don't want to get into a mindset of being greedy at all. And if you're in a relationship with somebody who's struggling with that, be praying for that person. But before else, let's get plugged into a Christ-centered community where you have people around you that can speak life over that person and be praying over that person too if they're struggling with greed. Thank you guys so much for listening with me to the song Greedy by Tate McRae. Something that some themes that I noticed here with this song. It's interesting. Greed was actually one of the smaller themes in the song. The biggest one, as we've seen with lots of popular pop songs, is has a really catchy beat. That's something that a lot of these great producers do. Is they develop great beats, but the lyrics themselves. Are setting people up for failure in the sense of not having healthy relationships. So, like she talked about, I'm not sure if you love me or you hate me. Well, that's a problem right there. Because if you want to go into a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, and what we know with Scripture, we know with the Bible, is that when we go into romantic relationships, the intention should be to, do you want to marry that person? Do you want to build a life with that person? And if you don't, you shouldn't be in a relationship with that person. It's not worth it. As tempting as the physical vibes, as I mentioned earlier, may be with that person, if you don't see a life with that person, don't be dishonoring of that person's time or your own time as well. So make sure that you are being obedient to God with how you use your time, but also be honoring towards that person if you do not see a future with that person, and if they consistently give you mixed messages, which is never a great thing. So that's really the big thing that I could say that we saw with this song. Greedy by Tate McRae. And then you obviously have greedy as far as with time. Maybe the significant other is caught up in greed of trying to work and is putting the relationship to the side, which that again could be a problem. So those are the two big things I see here with themes for this video. Would I recommend the song? Probably not. And I would definitely say if you're someone younger, especially under the age of 18, please, 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 I would not recommend listening to the song. It may be super catchy. You may hear it at your local Walmart, at your local Publix, Safeway, Giant, whatever it may be. But it's not one I would recommend listening to consistently, as it's not helping you. It's not helping people, especially if you're a Christian, live that full, abundant life in Jesus. It's very much contradicting to that. Yes, it's contradicting a lot of those principles and a lot of those ideas that are going to help you flourish in your life. And I want you to flourish. I know Jesus wants you to flourish, so I definitely would recommend listening to great songs. Like our On and On worship album Emerge here that is now out on Spotify and Apple Music. So be sure to check those great songs out as well. Thank you so much for taking the time here to react with me. If you have an idea for a future React video, be sure to include it right now down in the comment section below, or message us on TikTok, on Instagram, or any of our other major social media platforms. I hope you all have a blessed rest of your day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.